everyone, subscribers. Welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in this evening's podcast, we're going to be reviewing the weekend that was in EPL action. Liverpool tasting defeat again, going down 2-1 to Manchester United. And of course, Chelsea winning also and subsequently leading to the firing of the Nottingham Forest coach. Now, joining me this evening to review these matches and to talk some EPL football, we have returning to the podcast, Christoph.
Good to be back, viewers.
Yes, Christoph, a lot has transpired in the EPL this weekend. None more so than Liverpool tasting defeat a fourth successive time. That is where we definitely have to start. Talk to us about that game.
Um, so I've heard a lot of things about that game. I watched that game, but just listening, putting your ear to and listening what people are saying. Like some people saying that Man United played really brilliantly and that cost that's how they win, and then some people saying Liverpool played really poorly and that's why they lost. But I think it's a combination of the two. Man United played better than they've been playing for a majority of the season, and Liverpool played very poorly. And you could say especially the forwards, the Salah, the 150 million pound man Isak, very poorly. As well as there were maybe some tactical tweaks that Arne Slot made that were not necessarily bad tweaks per se, but they resulted or they aided in Liverpool losing the game, to be honest.
Oh, what tweaks do you speak of though? Elaborate a bit further. What are the tweaks you're referring to?
So what one of the major thing that Slot did was he wanted to get was it McAllister and Soberslide. He pushed up McAllister and Soberslide just behind Isak in those the right and left channel. Doing that, however, forced Salah and Gakpo to stay wide as a result, meaning they were not as effective as they could be, and you leave a lot of space in the midfield, allowing for United to counter-attack, which kind of partly led to that first goal. I mean, brilliant goal from United. I thought it was a really good goal. I don't know if it would have scored if it was Allison, but you can't take away from it. It was a really good counter-attack.
Well, I mean, first of all, congratulations to Manchester United. You have to admit when you have lost. I mean, a disappointing scoreline, of course. I thought Liverpool had this one in the bag, but it was United who came out on top. But I mean, to me, Christoph, watching the game, Liverpool had sufficient opportunity to win that game, in all
Definitely,
honesty.
definitely.
Gakpo hitting the post 3 times, Salah getting a chance, which he should have buried. I mean, clear-cut chances, high XG, so to speak.
Uh,
And then when I look at the United chances, the only other chance outside of the two goals that I can remember is that cutback to Fernandez, where he should have buried that one in the first half and probably made it 2-0 at that point. But that being said, Gagpo got a glorious through ball from Salah, which he should have buried subsequent to that Fernandez chance. That would have made the game 1-1. But I mean, you have to give your hats off to United. They came with a plan, they executed, and they went away with the 3 points. But to me, it was more Liverpool beating themselves than really Manchester United beating Liverpool, so to speak. Enough chances were in the game to get the result, I thought, from Liverpool. But
uh,
again, the defensive fragilities
I
showing their ugly head again.
I
So,
don't fully agree with that assessment. Yes, Liverpool had more than enough clear-cut chances that they could have won. They did not take them.
right?
Gakpo is probably most guilty, like you said.
Correct.
I remember first half, I think it was Isak got
Isak got a
got
chance as
got a
well that the
chance.
goalkeeper pulled out a save.
Right,
So
right.
credit to the goalkeeper for
And
that save, of course.
late in the second half, Salah did get a number of chances
Correct.
that were poorly taken.
Right. Gagpo as well, hitting the bar also and getting that header, that free header late on in the game, which he headed wide. That was probably the easiest chance in the game, in all honesty. So
Yeah,
to
it
me,
was a
Christoph,
very easy chance.
yeah, to me, Liverpool lost, yes, and obviously you're now on the back of four defeats in a row in all competitions. To me, the key factor is the defensive fragilities, but that might be compounded by the lack of effective finishing at the other end of the field. Chances are being created when you look at the likes of a Verts. Going into this game, he had the most chance creation in the entire EPL. Yes, he hasn't registered an assist or a goal, but chances are being created. Same with Salah. I mean, Salah could have had maybe two assists in this game if the chances were tucked away. So it's not a case where Liverpool are not creating. To me, they are creating, but where they're lacking is putting away the chances, being clinical in front of goal, and of course, keeping the ball out of the back of their own net. So defensively, lots of work to be done. And that's an era which we highlighted even in the preseason, Christoph, when Liverpool should have gone out and pushed, to me, probably harder for Aguehi. And we are possibly seeing that coming back to bite them at this point in time. Possibly. I mean, your two first choice centre backs are still playing, but can you play these guys over the entire course of the season in all competitions? They're gonna need rest at some point in time, and of course, if you're off form, there is very little quality on the bench to really push you or even displace you from the starting 11. So it's a defensive conundrum. Players are still being integrated, but credit has to be given to Manchester United. Not taking anything away from United, they went to Anfield with a plan and they were clinical in front of goal. And I mean, it was an inspired sub by the coach as well, bringing on Maguire. And he was the one who came up with the winner. So credit to Amarin getting his first
Back-to-back
back-to-back
win.
wins, at Anfield. So this could potentially be a turning point in the United season. His first high-profile scalp, so to speak, Christoph. Can you see United now pushing on and really, getting some wins together?
It's definitely the type of game where winning it gives you a lot of confidence to push through the remainder of the season. But obviously, that remains to be seen. They can take this momentum into future games and get those results. But again, we have to see it first. I
So
can't
you're
say
not
that it's a
believing as yet
guarantee.
then. You're
No, it's
saying
not
more games before you will say turn in the corner, so to speak.
right, right. So I mean, you have to string together a result.
So possibly over the next 4 or 5 games, then, if things continue to progress, then the calls will pretty much hush for Amarin out.
Right.
Mm. Interesting times ahead over there at United, and definitely some interesting times ahead at Liverpool as well. I mean, in my estimation, there is no need to really panic at this point in time, but definitely the season is beginning to slip away. The chances of slipping any further behind now becomes very thin. The what should I say? The limitations for a mistake is becoming smaller and smaller. As Pep once said, you may not be able to win the league in October, but you can certainly lose it if you're far too much behind the leaders. And speaking of leaders, Christoph, this is a good time to segue over to Arsenal. Arsenal getting a win over Fulham. Was it 1-0?
1 second, 1 second.
1 goal to nil, I believe. Arsenal got over Fulham, and another clean sheet. Arsenal seem to be racking up these clean sheet. That defensive solidity definitely taking the game by the scruff of the neck. So this is a team which can battle through a 1-0 and come out victorious on the other end. So they are definitely keeping the pressure. They are the early pace setters, it would seem. 3 game weeks away, it was Liverpool, but so much can change over the course of 3 weeks, and it is Arsenal, courtesy of a Trossard strike. But that man again, Gokieres, coming up blanks, Christoph. What can we say about Gokieres?
Um, again, it's like I said, it's not like there's a whole lot of high quality chances falling to him at the moment. He does need to adjust his game for the EPL, right? His playing style needs slight tweaking, and his choice of finish needs more variation. So far he looks to be powering those shots in. He needs to vary them more. A power shot is not necessarily always needed in some of these
So
situations.
at this point in time, though, Christoph, having seen 8 games, what's your current assessment of Agokieres?
More time needed. That is my only assessment. But he does provide his presence provides a change in defenders. He does not drop off deep to collect or receive the ball. So even though he's not scoring, he is drawing defenders. So when you watch games, you see one, two, three defenders on him when there is space for a pass to him. So you saw it a lot in even the Man City game where at one point I saw Man City had three markers on him. So it's not a matter of him not being as effective as people think. It's more, defenders are marking him out of a lot
So
of
you
games.
so you still have belief in his abilities then?
I
Nothing has
I
changed.
nothing has changed at the moment. It's still early days.
Early days, early days. All right, we'll give it some time then, and we'll revisit this conversation surrounding Gokieres in due time. But Chelsea, Christoph, Chelsea ran away 3-0 winners over Nottingham Forest away from home. And again, Chelsea picked up a red card in that game. But immediately after that result, news came that Ange was no more. Ange immediately sacked after the game. What's your take on that sacking, Christoph, and the Chelsea performance in general?
Um, well, you had said you expected Ange to probably be sacked after that
Correct,
game.
correct. Yeah, I mean, I saw it coming. It was
Um,
just a matter of time, really. One bad result. He was one bad result away from being sacked. And so said, so done. I mean, watching that game, in all honesty, that was the early kickoff on Saturday. So I got a very good look at that game. And to be honest, if Nottingham Forest had taken their chances in that first half, I think they could have gone on to win the game. But we know the EPL is a game of once you're on top and dominating, you need to make it count. And that was the case with Nottingham Forest. They dominated the first half, but did not make it count. And then Chelsea, two quick fire goals at the start of the second half, and that was pretty much game, set, match at that point in time. And of course, the fans turned and, the players could just not lift themselves. And Chelsea pretty much sealed it with a third. So, sad to see, but it's the nature of the EPL, Christoph. But another good win for Chelsea. And, they're definitely pushing hard at the upper echelons of the league.
um, it's a good result for Chelsea. Obviously, they beat Liverpool, which was a fantastic result as well. But like you said, I feel like if Nottingham Forest had gotten probably those two guilty chances in the first half, I feel like Chelsea would have lost its game. I think it's a case where Um, goals you don't score get scored on you. If Nottingham Forest had scored, Chelsea would have been beaten. I don't think Chelsea was particularly spectacular in this game. There were a number of poor performances, you could say, especially, Alejandro Garnacho, very poor, in my opinion, in
Mm.
this game. So,
Yeah,
and like you
he did
said,
get a chance from the start, but as you said,
Chelsea
ah,
with another red card, and
I'm not
that might be
sure.
something to look into for Maresca. What is happening?
Right, right. Well, it's a young team, probably indiscipline creeping in. I mean, it was two unnecessary yellow cards, which led to a subsequent red and a bit of indiscipline, which looking at the big picture, it could come back to haunt Chelsea in the long run. But Angie's no more, and the man I am hearing, Christoph, is Sean Dyche, former Burnley coach, and most recently of Everton. He is the man who seemed to be the front runner to get this job at Forest. Would he be a good appointment, or I'm hearing the likes of Roberto Mancini also being linked with the job, Christoph? Who would be your choice for taking over the job over there at Nottingham Forest?
Um, I've heard Chandise as well, but it could be a case where they're just bringing in man um Shandash to kind of, fix up the results, so to speak, since he does play a counter-attacking style of football, which would suit the Nottingham Forest players that are there currently. And then next season you bring in a Mancini to develop and change your approach. Maybe. Yeah, just the
Yeah,
same.
that's an
But
option for
I
sure.
I
Definitely. I mean, if Deitch was to go in and get the result, who to tell? He may yet secure the job in the long term. But yeah, as a stopgap, he would definitely be a good appointment, in my opinion, in order to secure EPL football for Nottingham Forest come next season, because right now they seem to be in a relegation battle for sure. They are down in the doldrums with the likes of Wolves, with the likes of West Ham. They are among established teams in the EPL who are battling it out in the relegation zone, Christoph. And I mean, the newly promoted teams who out of the three picked up wins this weekend also. Sunderland continued their hot streak and Burnley getting the better over Leeds. So these newly promoted teams are definitely getting some good early results and really putting the pressure on the established teams who may be looking at playing in the championship come next season. Who is your early call for relegation though, Christoph? Having seen the first 8 games, who is your early call?
at the moment it looks like the current bottom three will be the bottom three at the end of the season to
So
me.
you're saying West Ham Wolves.
West Ham Wolves and maybe Leeds. I feel like
Mm.
Leeds could potentially turn it around.
Well, the bottom three currently is Wolves, West Ham, Forest, and then
But
Burnley Leeds,
well, potentially we're expecting Forest to kind of turn it around under Dash.
right?
If even for the next couple of weeks, that new coach bounce.
Oh, Coach Bounce.
Right. So Leeds has been, pretty shaky in my opinion. I think they have what, 2 wins? They have
Leeds have
Le
2 wins,
2 wins,
two
Nottingham
draws,
Forest.
and 4 losses.
Okay. So Wolves and West Ham feel like a definite drop right now at this moment. And then
Gotcha.
I would put it between a Nottingham Forest and Burnley is kind of shaky too. So I guess all right, I guess you could say 16, 17, and 18. All three of those have the potential to drop. So
Mm.
Leeds, Burnley, Nottingham Forest, but definitely Wolves and West Ham look like a definite going down.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's a long way off, but as you said, based on how things are progressing now, I mean, the- two of those teams have changed coaches. I mean, West Ham, new coach under Nuno, they picked up another defeat today to going down 2-0 to Brentford. And of course, Forest haven't yet appointed a new manager, but the old manager is out, so it's just a matter of time before they appoint a manager to two of the bottom three teams have managerial casualties this early in the season, 8 games in, and you're looking at sackings already. But it's the nature of the EPL. Once you're a coach in football these days, then being sacked is a distinct possibility. It doesn't matter the name you have or the record you have. I don't think any coach is really unsackable at this point in time. The only coach I would probably say is unsackable, Christoph, would be Pep. Pep seems to be the only man I would consider unsackable right now in the EPL, because even Slot, if Slot doesn't turn things around and get a few wins, you may soon hear the cause going to a Slot for
I
sacking. But I
mean,
think that would
I
definitely be a premature decision.
I mean
It would
you
just be
you
fans
you would
making
hear
noise.
you would definitely hear the fans calling for the sacking, but I feel like he probably has a lot of goodwill in the bank at the moment where the results would have to go extremely poorly for them
Correct.
to consider sacking him.
Or if he loses the dressing room.
Or if he loses the dressing room, yeah.
Correct, correct. So, but the fans these days, Christoph, I must say, are very fickle. Very, very fickle fans. One defeat and the internet goes wild.
It's yeah, the fans do kind of. definitely want to have, that instant success, instant gratification. But it's not just the fans, it's the a lot of these online, podcasts and people with their footballing channels or whatever. They I feel like they quickly turn the fan opinion some of the times, and so not necessarily that a fan wants, but the mob mentality kind of gets into them and is calling for slot out whatever. Yeah, I don't
One
think
defeat, two defeat,
one
The
defeat,
fans
two
smell
defeat.
blood and they want blood now, I just say instant gratification,
Right,
instant success, which isn't how football works.
right, and
So,
they're treating it as if it's a case where it is rare for teams to win the league unbeaten. Arsenal, Leverkusen are only two of the probably more recent teams to have done it. It is extremely rare for a team to win the season
yeah, I think you
unbeaten.
can throw
So,
Juventus into that bracket as well.
yeah, Juventus. So, it's a couple of losses. Maybe these are all Liverpool's losses for the remainder of the season.
Well, who to tell? Time will definitely tell, but we'll see what transpires over the next few weeks of games. But in terms of player of the round, Christoph, player of the round, this is a segment we have been having of late. Which or who was the standout player for you of the eighth round of the EPL? For me, while you think, for me, it was definitely Mateta. Mateta of Crystal Palace. That game ending in a 3-3 draw. That was one of our featured games. And that one ending in a draw. And I think that was also, for me, the game of the round, a very exciting game where Bournemouth went 2 goals up. Uh, Crystal Palace pulled it back and and pretty much took the lead, went 3-2 up, only for Bournemouth to hit back late. And at the death, Mateta himself got a glorious opportunity, probably the easiest chance of the game to make it 4-3 in favor of Crystal Palace, but he blazed over. But he ended the game with a hat-trick and a share of the points for Crystal Palace. So he was my player of the round, and that was the game of the round for me as well. What says you?
Um, I feel like I would say Danny Welbeck.
Mm.
Danny Welbeck
Coming up with a brace versus Newcastle.
coming up with a really good brace against Newcastle. Brighton, we've said poor defending from them. Really, spotty defending, not poor, spotty defending. Um, kind of did not expect them to get the result of this because Newcastle was building up momentum. You always said, Voldemar would score. I think Voldemar did score,
Yeah,
right?
Baltimore did score. In
Right,
fact, a spectacular little back heel, to be honest with you. You
right.
know, a Berbatov finish, Christoph. And he moves like Berbatov, to be honest with you. When I think of a player that he's most akin to currently, one of the players that would come in mind is Berbatov. Probably not as skilled, but his movement, he's not a very fast player, but very slippery and very technical in terms of his touches and movements and just that skill inside the box and that close control. So he reminds me a lot of Berbatov and probably a Berbatov cross with a Peter Crouch.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you saw that goal, but it was a neat little, you could say, back heel finish
I need
that he had versus Brighton. A
I,
very intelligent piece of football right there.
I need to look at it again.
Yeah, definitely take a look at it again. But Welbeck isn't a bad call, to be honest with you. Welbeck isn't a bad call. At his ripe old age, he is still getting the business done in the EPL.
Yeah, he seems to have gotten better. I don't know if he understands how to manage his fitness better now or what, but he seems to be staying fit a lot more, over the last 2, 3 seasons than he did earlier in his career.
Oh, yeah. Plus, I mean, when you look at a Welbeck, he has had a positional change as well. I mean, at Manchester United, he was more of a winger. Now he is playing a more central role for Brian over the last couple of seasons. But
I
for
mean,
sure, those were two
he
quality strikes he came up with versus a stubborn Newcastle team. And I myself, I mean, I had Newcastle to win that game, in all honesty. That was my prediction in the previous show. But again, as I have mentioned numerous occasions, Brighton is a very hard team to read, Christoph. Brighton is a very hard team to read. They will beat the best of teams, and then they could lose to the worst of teams as well. And then have a mixed bag of results with every other team in between. So this time around, they got a result versus Newcastle. Your guess is as good as mine as to if they will follow this up with another win. But for sure, they seem to be one of the teams that will finish in the safe zone based on the early observations. They have a lot of young players coming through the ranks. But that player, Christoph Baleba, he was linked with Manchester United earlier on in the season. Has his head been turned? He has been underperforming thus far in the season, Christoph. Or was it a case of fool's goal?
Um, it could be a case of full goals because we know Manchester United's recruitment has not necessarily been great. Post Sir Alex Ferguson. Granted, Brian Mbeumo looking like so far looking like good value for the money spent. Cunha has yet to come good and Sesko has yet to come good. But it could be that this is we're seeing what his real form or level is at the moment. So it could also just be a bad spell at the moment, right?
Mm,
A player distractions or whatever. I don't necessarily think it's a case where his head has been turned. The player hasn't tried to force their way out or refuse
right,
to play
right.
or whatever. Because if a team says they're coming to buy you, or you think you would want to be performing well, you don't want them to think that okay, you are a waste of money, in my opinion. So
Correct.
you would want to be playing well at this point
For
in time.
sure, for sure,
So
for
it
sure.
might
Definitely.
I think for right now, you probably call it the players just in a bad spell and, wait on them to kind of get back into their form.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But some other interesting results and some other intriguing performances as well, Christoph. Man City getting the better of Everton, 2 goals to nil. And it was that man, Erling Haaland, again, Christoph, coming up with the goods. Is he the best striker in the world currently, Christoph, is the question.
Um, he might be the best pure striker,
Well,
but,
but why
but
is it we find it so difficult to give Haaland the credit,
no, no,
Christoph?
no, 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 no. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I I
What do
I
you
said
mean by
he
pure striker
pure
again?
striker. He doesn't contribute anything else
Yeah,
except
that's what
goals.
I want. I want a
Yeah,
man who is gonna give me a goal a
right,
game.
right. But I think people might want to argue that it's Mbappe. So
Mm.
I'm
So,
saying
well,
he's
I'm asking
definitely
you,
the best pure
who is your
striker.
call? Who is the best striker in the world right now?
No, I definitely think it's Haaland. Just for the mere fact that the 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 overall quality and opposition and potentially the defenses that you will face in the EPL are going to be a lot tougher than what Mbappe will face in La Liga.
The only other player I could make a reasonable argument for is Kane. Kane is the only other player I could make a reasonable argument for, but definitely Haaland right now seem to be an unstoppable force. And in this game again, he came up with two, but it could have easily been four, to be honest with you. Watching that game, it could easily have been four
It
goals for Haaland, but
it
he
could
got two.
have it could have easily been 4 goals for Haaland, but like I said, watching that game, I think that game could have easily have been 4-4 because
Yeah, Everton just doesn't have a striker, Christoph. That
right,
man Beto.
if
That
they
man
had
Beto. They need a striker. Everton needs a number nine. That is Everton's weakness right now. They have everything else because again, I thought you predicted a more higher scoring game
I,
for
I
City.
I I said I thought City would probably win 4-0, and I
Right.
said I thought Haaland would score 4.
Right, right. I think I did call this one maybe 2-0, I believe. I may have been spot on with this prediction in all honesty. I'll have to check back the tape. Viewers, you can check back the tape and let me know if I got that one correctly. But yeah, for sure, Everton is a decent enough team under Moise Christoph, but what they lack a quality nine. A man who can give them even 10 goals a season, to be honest with you. 10 goal. If they could find a striker who can give them 10 goals a season, then probably you're looking at Everton maybe occupying one of those European spots. Maybe the Conference League, maybe the Europa League, but that is what they're lacking, and that is what money it has to buy. That is what big money will get you. Big money will get you a quality striker because goals is a scarce commodity once it comes to the EPL, and it is goals that win matches. No matter how good your defense is, if you're not putting the ball in the back of the net, then 9 times out of 10, you're gonna come out on the losing end. So, ah, Everton keep working, but another good win for City. They seem to be back on track. Pretty much they're riding the backs of Haaland at the moment. It seems as if Haaland doesn't score, then City doesn't seem to score. But stopping Haaland is a harder task than probably stopping a Cole Palmer, Christoph.
Uh, uh, yes, probably because of the sheer physicality and pace that Haaland has. In the EPL, there's probably only two teams that can kind of mark Haaland out of a game.
Oh, so that would be Arsenal, and who would be the other team?
Liverpool.
Well, I would not really bank on that Liverpool defense at this point in
Oh,
time,
no, I
honestly.
wouldn't bank
Even
on the
Van Dijk
defense.
looks a shadow of himself, to be honest. Even a Van Dijk looks a shadow of himself. But we're not gonna rehash those nightmarish moments from Saturday, Christoph. We move on and we look at some other interesting fixtures, which we had. Another interesting game was Aston Villa, Christoph, going down 1 goal, but then rallying and winning that game 2 goals to 1 over Spurs. What's your take on that game? What's your assessment of these two teams? Uh, both teams have had what I would say subpar starts to the start of the season. Aston Villa not looking like the Aston Villa of last year, and of course Spurs under new manager now. Are we seeing a regression of Spurs after such a blazing start?
I don't know if I would class it as a regression. I agree with you that Aston Villa has had a poor start to the season, and I think that might be down to probably poor activity in the transfer market, or little to no almost no activity in the transfer market, I think. Um, it could be, not saying it is right at the moment, that Tottenham is leveling out, and we're
Possibly.
possibly seeing their level for the remainder of the season. Um, could just be a bad spell. Could just be a bad spell, but I don't think they
I would
started
go with the
poorly. They
latter which you describe. I think it's more of a leveling out.
a level so they
Yeah,
did
yeah. I
they start
mean, do remember that they finished what, 17th last season or
right.
16th?
They
So,
finished
I
below
mean,
United,
they
so
they
what?
did make some
16th.
additions, but and as well as change coach. But as you say, it could just be a leveling out. Early on, they probably got that new coach bounce at the start of the season. I think they had racked up a couple of wins, but since lately, they have been leveling out. The results have been indifferent, in all honesty. And this was another example, going one up at home at that, and then being beaten 2 goals to 1. But I must say, it was two quality strikes by Aston Villa. That man, Morgan Rogers, and then late in the second half, Buendia, coming up with two quality strikes. So credit to Aston Villa, fighting back and getting a result. And Spurs, another disappointing defeat, I would say. Back to the drawing board, it seems. But that might be, I mean, both teams are really looking like mid-table teams at this point in time, Christoph. They're looking at mid-table teams, teams that won't necessarily finish in Europe, but will have no issues with relegation either. Almost finishing anywhere between 14th and you could say 8th. Anywhere in that bracket between 14 and 8. That seems to be where these two teams are at currently, having seen them go up against each other. Uh,
All right.
I'm not sure. The signings that Spurs have made, they haven't really hit the ground running. The likes of a Xavi Simons or even a Kudos, Christoph.
No, Kudo, what are you talking about? Kudo started out the season really, really well. He played well in against PSG in the UEFA Cup. He played well the beginning of the season. He looked very dangerous all preseason. He looked dangerous the beginning, the opening games of the season. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, he looks that way, but he doesn't seem to be getting
Oh,
on.
he was producing. He was
Mm,
getting assists, getting goals. So
yeah, I'm not sure, not sure. Spurs going back to looking Spursy, it seems. Uh, but that being said, though, Christoph, what can you say about this weekend of EPL action? Any shocks, any surprises outside of that Liverpool game?
you know, I, the Liverpool game, Newcastle losing to Brighton, and I don't. I don't think there was any other shocks. I mean, I thought Crystal Palace did that. Didn't I say this game would draw Crystal Palace versus?
Possibly we'll have to check the tapes.
I'm pretty
We
sure I said a draw and I said like 2-2 or 3-3 or something like that.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I would definitely have to check the tapes. I know for me, I definitely had called a Bournemouth win. To be honest with you, I thought Bournemouth should have won this game, and in fact,
Uh,
they should have won the game. Having gone two goals up, they
okay.
should have won. To be honest with you,
And
and even having taken the lead again by going 3-2 up, they should have won the game. But some bad decisions leading to a penalty. It was like a off the ball wrestling match, which led to a penalty which Mateta converted, and that pretty much tied up the game 3-3. So,
and I think
uh,
they had a strange result because I'm pretty sure I said I expected Tottenham to beat Aston Villa. Um, strange results. Also interesting to see the referees are back to their ways, but
yeah,
still got the result.
actually,
Still got the result.
speaking of referee, the Buendia goal versus Spurs, Christoph.
Hmm.
I thought that goal should have been called back for offside because
Offside.
clearly, in my opinion, an Aston Villa player was standing in front of the goalkeeper, where he even, you could say, sighted the ball, moved out of the way for the ball to get beyond the keeper. I thought that goal should have been called back for offside, interfering with play, but it was not. So to me, I'm not
Uh,
sure what's going on. I just
uh,
find that a very odd decision.
so very rarely do I see that type of thing called back for offside. I've seen it a lot where they go and they review it, but rarely do I see it called back for offside. The player would have had to be directly in front of the keeper, like, almost touching the keeper or something. So rarely do I see that one call back as offside. I think the other poor decision I saw was, in the Arsenal game where they went and they checked the penalty only to say no penalty, and I think that was absolutely wrong. They're saying that the ball was touched first, but they were looking at the wrong point of contact when they were looking at that. The contact was at the knee. The initial contact was at the knee. I think they were looking to the foot, to the ankle to see, and the first call, the referee said penalty. It took them almost 5 minutes to try and rule out the penalty. At completely wrong, poor decision, in my opinion. Wrong decision.
Well, we just have to give thanks for small mercies, but we move. But Christoph, we are out of time. I just like to thank you again for coming on board and sharing your thoughts and your opinions, viewers and subscribers. Thank you again for tuning in to us here on Beating the Press podcast. We are pushing towards 500 subscribers by Christmas, viewers. So if you haven't subscribed as yet, hit that subscription bell. If you are a subscriber, then do me a huge favor and share the podcast. Leave a comment and hit that like button. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.